This video is sponsored by Exter. One tool that I've always wanted in my toolkit is Turbo Dork paint. These colors are some of the shiniest metallics that I have ever seen, and I have seen brilliant examples of them used, but I've always struggled personally to get a good finish. Some colors like Tin Star, the brightest, shiniest, glitteriest silver I've ever used, I absolutely love, but there are other colors like Romeo and Juliet that I've really struggled with. This year at Adepticon, I decided to pick up a whole bunch of these colors, and I am going to figure it out. I got some good tips and tricks from the reps at the Turbo Dork booth at Adepticon that I'm looking forward to trying out, and I'm also energized to try out these new paints on some new minis, my Starcraft 2 Terran. I got these guys all assembled, and I've actually got some games in with these suckers. Took a loss against the Zerg, but next time I will win, and that'll be because they're painted, and hopefully painted up in some bright, shiny colors. One thing that I've struggled with a lot is getting this paint to mix. As you can see, all the heavy particles have completely separated from the medium and have settled at the bottom. The Turbo Dork that I talked to suggested physically stirring up the paint, and they told me that the tops do come off. I slid my hobby knife under the lip of the nozzle applicator and gave it a twist to lift the nozzle up enough to get my fingernail underneath to pop it off. I dropped in a stainless steel mixing ball, but I doubt this will be enough to really knock the pigment loose. Who knows how long these paints have sat before I bought them, so sticking in a popsicle stick and giving it a stir, I can really feel the sludge. This stuff is really compacted at the bottom, and I can see, bringing it up to the surface, this stuff needs some mechanical help to break apart. After some thorough mixing, I can't feel any clumps anymore, so I put the nozzle back on. It snaps into place with a satisfying click. Almost as satisfying as the wallets and traveling gear from today's sponsor, Exter. Have you ever felt any embarrassment pulling out your old raggedy wallet to buy some lovely new minis? I've had my all new wallet for a bit now, and I love it. It's a smooth leather that feels great, takes up very little space, and still has plenty of room for 12 different cards and all the cash I need on the go. And the most fun thing, if I need those cards in a jiffy, the wallet has a little mechanism that springs the card out in an instant. The wallet has built-in RFID protection to keep your cards safe from any roving data thieves, and if you're ever forgetful, it comes with a handy finder function. Use the Extra card finder by slipping it into your wallet and never lose it again. And as I've been going to more conventions lately, I've really appreciated another thing about Extra, the travel vacuum kit. It's great at helping me pack away all the essentials while still having space for plenty of new minis. It's a little vacuum seal kit with an included rechargeable pump that is ready to go in 20 minutes. The vacuum seal can compress clothing up to 60%, meaning there's 60% more room for everything else in my suitcase. Made from nylon and designed for hygiene, these kits are sure to last me many travels to come. Right now, they're having a huge sale for Mother's Day, which means up to 55% off when you use the code BATTLE26. You can follow the link in the description to get one of these snazzy wallets for your mom or for yourself. One by one, I gave all my paints the same treatment. They all felt about the same with the sludge on the bottom, but it was pretty simple to prep them all. After a few bottles, I noticed there was a little dimple under the lip of the bottles for you to get a finger underneath to help you lift the caps off, so no hobby knife necessary. Once I had them all stirred and with the mixing balls in place, I gave each bottle a few blasts in my vortex mixer. These are metallic paints, so the pigments are pretty heavy. I think it'll be really important to shake the paint often while using them so the pigments don't have time to settle. Now my paints are ready for dust off, it's time to prep my figures. I have them all tacked down to bases for gaming, but it's time to get them set up on some paint handles. I want to try out a few different undercoats to see how the paint performs. On two models, I primed them in black. The Terran scheme I want to go with is black armor with red accents from the multiplayer. For the last guy, I primed him in white, doing a few coats to cover all the blue plastic. Then for one of the black primed minis, I hit him with the Zenithal white from above. Turbo Dork paint is a little thin and transparent, so I figure that the undercoating will really change the appearance and finish. I bought a few different silver paints to try out: Silver Fox, Tin Star, and 6-shooter. These are 3 different steps of brightness. The one that I really hope works is this dark metallic 6-shooter. The in-game model is kind of a dark gunmetal, so I think this will be my best bet for a brilliant one-step solution. I vigorously shook my freshly stirred paint bottles and I dripped them into my airbrush. The paint is pretty thick, so I added a few drops of flow improver to thin it so it flows well through the airbrush, although this thinning will also make the paint more transparent. I sprayed this on in 2 thin coats all over the 3 figures. The paint is thin, so after the first coat I can see some gaps in the pigment, but after 2 coats I would say I had full coverage. And I'm shocked at just how much the undercoating changed the finish. It looks like 3 different colors. The undercoating really gave me some transformative changes, all with the same paint, the 6-shooter. Over the black prime, it looks like a shiny kind of obsidian color, which I feel like is pretty good. I'm going for the black armored Terran with the red accents, which is always what I play as when I'm playing multiplayer. And this is pretty darn good, but it's a little dark. Over the Zenithal, it's like a really nice gunmetal with a little bit of that darkness in the very recesses. This maybe looks a little bit more like what it does in game. Over the white, it seems like this really, really dark pigmented paint had a lot of trouble cutting through, and I can see a lot of that white primer underneath. I think for the darker colors, it needs a darker base. But I have some ideas to play around with this white primed guy. I want to see what happens if I spray Silver Fox over the white primed figure. The 6-shooter looked a little dull over the white. I think it's the dark pigments fighting with the white undercoating that stopped the luster from forming. But the Silver Fox covers wonderfully for an almost chrome finish. It has much stronger reflections than either of the two 6-shooter examples. I don't know if I'm gonna get a 1-coat solution, but I expected to have to do some kind of a wash or something to get some contrast. I grabbed some Grim Black speed paint and thinned it down 50-50 with speed paint medium. The Turbo Dork paint has a glossy finish, which works well with the speed paint to let it really separate and sink into the recesses. I put this over the Silver Fox and the Zenithal 6-shooter, and it darkened the color but didn't dull the shine too much. And it really outlines all the cracks in the armor. Looking at these two figures, I don't know which one I prefer. The Silver Fox is shinier, but the color of the 6-shooter is really good. I need to see some more details painted before I can make a decision. I took some Slaughter Red speed paint and I put this over the shoulders and the cowl. This transparent color lets the metallic shine through, but it's a little dark. It would be good for some 30,000 suns, but for my Terran Marines, I want something brighter. I took some pure red from the army painter and I painted this on. I'm just testing right now, so I'm not being too careful to thin my paints properly. I just want the color on there quick so I can see what it looks like. To get the paint on there faster, I did a dry brushing of this color too. It's hard to get it to cover over the darkness of the metal. After that, I tried putting on the thinned Grim Black over the red so I can shade the recess of the armor. Thinking about my recipe going forward, I would probably do the silver and the red before the wash over both. Once that was dry, I went back over my raised areas, reapplying the pure red so it was nice and bright. Seeing these Marines looking more like the game, I can get a better feel for what I'm looking for. I've got two front runners for a Terran color scheme, and they're both really interesting. The darker 6-shooter color over the Zenithal Prime does have a really nice gunmetal look that really looks like the in-game model, but there is something to the Silver Fox over the white Prime. This is a little brighter and a little glitterier, and I'm kind of leaning towards this. One trick I like to do with my work in progress minis is I'll take them for a walk around my house so that I can see them in different lighting conditions. Cold light, warm light, natural light, bad lighting, just to see how they make me feel, because everything tends to look pretty good under the ultra bright painting lamps. But I want these guys to have the same oomph at the game store that they do in photos. And so I think the Silver Fox might have it. It's been really fun messing around with some of these Turbo Dork paints, but now I think I want to try out another tool that I haven't used too much, and that is the Goblin Hobbies stamping plates. I want some white symbols on these shoulder pads, but they're super bumpy and segmented, and it would be a real pain in the butt, if not impossible, to get a waterslide decal on there. Then I would also have to cut away the parts that are floating. I'm hoping these stamping plates from my buddies Goobertown Hobbies and eBay Miniature Rescue will do the trick. This is a funky process. You brush the paint onto the symbol you want from the metal plates, then quickly take a plastic squeegee and wipe away the excess so that the symbol you want is full of paint. Then comes the real trick, quickly picking up the symbol on the silicone pad. The trick is to press the pad onto the plate and then roll it over the wet paint to pick it up. Then when it's on the pad, transferring it to the Mini, there is a learning curve of how quick to do each of these operations. I had it happen a few times where I was too slow on the pressing and my symbol dried on the silicone, or I was too slow on the pickup and not all the symbol came up. To clean mistakes, a piece of Scotch tape pulls the paint off the silicone perfectly, and some acetone is needed to clean the plate of dried paint. Eventually, I got into the groove of it and I could get it right almost every time. After quite a bit of trial and error, as this piece of Scotch tape can attest to, the nice thing about these plates is you can reuse each symbol indefinitely. I used the 108 number on the bottom of each panel and the big and small crosshairs over the middle. I think the bigger crosshairs are looking better, and the silicone pad is able to press the symbol into the gaps perfectly. The end product looks like a decal, but no amount of microsol would soften a decal enough to sink into the cracks like this. Unlike decals though, you do have to get it perfect the first try. I dripped some of my Grim Black wash over the decal. This went on pretty thick. Once again, as I'm thinking about my eventual perfect recipe, I would switch to a lighter wash over these. The stamping plates really worked out. It is definitely tricky to get the technique down for picking up the stamp and then putting it on the Mini, but I think I have now got the hang of it, and that is gonna work out for the rest of my Terran Marines. And speaking of these Marines, I've got 2 squads of 6, and one of them I'm gonna build as normal Terran Marines, but the other one are the Rainer's Raiders, which is a unique squad of Terran Marines who have like a deep strike mechanic. And to make them look a little bit different from the other squad, I'm leaving the visors up and their faces showing. And that is gonna give me 6 of these clear domes free to do some experimenting on. I clipped out my 6 sacrificial visors and I masked off all but one. For this one, I want to try this Turbo Dork All That Glitters, a very shiny gold color, and I airbrushed this on. I feel like the best way to get the coverage on these paints is through the airbrush, and I did 2 coats to get the back of the clear visor. Then onto the next one down, I flipped it and sprayed the gold onto the front. Then for number 3, I switched to Tin Star and sprayed this on the inside. Maybe the orange plastic will be enough to tint the silver into a gold look. Next, I put some Darkwood speed paint and I sprayed this onto the inside cheeks of the helmet so that they're darker on the sides and clear and open in the middle. I thought it looked pretty good, so I also sprayed the cheeks of the gold on the outside helmet as well. This Darkwood paint is brown, but I thought maybe a red. I took Murder Scene and I sprayed this onto the cheeks of the last helmet, and I sprayed all the tinted cheek visors with all that glitters from the inside to fill up all the parts that didn't get any contrast paint. I had an idea that since the Turbo Dork paints are affected by undercoating, I sprayed all the backs with white paint. Kinda like a last minute primer to make sure all the colors are as vibrant as possible. I cut out my parts and now to test fit them onto my Marine to see what looks good. These little things are hard to handle, but I got the Just Silver on the inside in place, and it looks okay, but the All That Glitters one looks a little bit better. But the All That Glitters looks even better with the burnt cheeks. This really helps show off the roundness of the helmet. The reddish visor didn't look very good at all. It's super blended in with the red painted armor. And this one that got the brown cheeks with the gold and a little dusting of All That Glitters over the front was interesting, but it's really hard to see the texture underneath. And that dusting was accidental overspray anyway. The last one, with all the paint on the outside, definitely looks the part, just like the in-game model, but I don't know if it wins overall. The inside painting that shows off the texture in the plastic is really good. It's hard to say, but I definitely think I'm on the right track. I gave the models dry brushing of Tin Star to highlight some of the edges and make the red armor look battle-worn, and this is basically what my Marines will look like with the Turbo Dork paints. I don't know which visor I like more. The one painted on the inside that takes advantage of the texture in the plastic, or the smooth NASA one. I feel like they both look pretty good. Let me know in the comments below, which one do you guys think looks better? And I think in the future for the rest of my Marines, I'm gonna be going with the Silver Fox over the White Prime. Now that I've got a good idea of what I'm gonna do for my Marines, I wanna look at another unit, the Medics. The Medics are a really important unit for the Terran. They don't do any damage themselves, but if you can imagine, they heal my guys, which is really important because of the Stim Pack rule. My Marines and Marauders can get much better if I Stim Pack, but it does hurt them and make them easier to kill. Luckily, if I have my Medics around, I can make it like I took no damage. And I'm looking forward to using up some of these new colors on the Medics. These models are going to be painted completely different from my Terran Marines. I bought some colors specifically for these guys, and I'm also going to be painting these guys up in sub-assemblies to make the airbrushing easier. I gave 2 of the minis a white prime, and I'm thinking white will work well for the color I picked, and I'll do one more with the Zenithal. The Zenithal did work well on the 6-shooter, so it might do something here. For one of the white prime medics, I sprayed it from below with some Caribbean Ocean Speed paint to do a sort of Zenithal with blue in the recesses. These are the 3 styles I want to try out under the Turbo Dork paint, and that paint is Motherload. A white pearly color that I'm betting the paint has almost no coverage. And looking at the paint in the bottle, it has some shimmery, cold, and warm tone, so I'm excited to see what happens. After some more vigorous shaking and a little bit of paint thinner, I gave my medics 2 coats of this each. Looking at the Zenithal example, there is something to the black undercoated fella, and the blue really pops. I think this blue is making it into the final recipe, so I went ahead and sprayed blue from below on my other 2 guys and I gave them another coat of Motherload over top. The shininess is looking really neat, and now to do some more colors. Gold, but something I'm finding is that the underpainting is really important. I think each Turbo Dork color will look its best if it's sprayed over a matching base coat, a color that closely resembles the metallic color. For the gold, I'm thinking this desert yellow as a base coat. I put this over the eye slit and the little details in their armor, and then I painted on some of that All That Glitters. In about 2 coats, it was looking good. Then for some more base coats, I took thinned down Grim Black and I put this over the in-between parts of their armor, all the joints and their tummies. Another thing I want to pick out is the red outline on the health symbols on their shields. I found this easier to paint on separately, then I attached them. Now I want to apply a wash, but I do not want to stain the Motherload paint at all, so I'm going to use some enamel panel liner, dark umber, and I painted this all over, letting it flow into all the recesses. And while that dried, I decided on one of these guys to use some black panel liner and see which one I prefer, the umber or the black. Once these paints had mostly dried, I came back in with some makeup sponges soaked in mineral spirits, and I wiped the paint off the Motherload metallics, only leaving it behind in the recesses. These sculpts look really good with all the recesses perfectly shaded, and the paint was really easy to wipe off the glossy Turbo Dork paint. Looking at the 2 different panel liners side by side, I don't see much difference. Now to grab the stamping plates again. I noticed this awesome medical symbol. This will go perfectly on the medic's shields. After a quick blob, swipe, pick up, and stamp, I got the symbols on there, red this time to match the health symbol. Now, these medics have visors too. These are molded in transparent green. Cutting one out and setting it in place, you can see the face underneath pretty clearly, so I think if I painted these faces, they would be readable. To try this, I painted the faces with Ruddy Terra and Ice Yellow, trying to exaggerate the contrast more than usual so it looks good even through the clear plastic. And I also picked out the eyes. I guess if I really wanted these faces visible, I could leave the visors off, but I want the best of both worlds. And our website EonsOfBattle.com has the best of every world. Over there we have all kinds of hobby goodies, Greytide Studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, base and cork, and we have glue. Ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month members get a credit good for any one train pack we've ever made or the brand new one. In April we have created the Armored Accessories Bits Pack. This set is full of awesome components to make your vehicles as unique and characterful as your infantry, with all kinds of equipment, storage, barrels and tools for your tanks to carry, seals and tassels that are vehicle sized, big ol' missiles, and extra armor. So many pieces of armor plating in different sizes and styles so your tanks can get the armor treatment that looks best on them. Whether it's a futuristic war machine, an ancient Hulk, or a chaotic monstrosity, these accessories will have your tanks covered. This bits pack is by tank players for tank players and is available both digitally and physically printed for you at EonsOfBattle.com. Slipping the visor into place, you can totally see the face in there, but I want to try something else out. The dark wood cheeks look really good on the Terran Marines, so maybe some orc skin cheeks would look good on these visors. They are a little bit smaller than the Terrans, so I can't get the paint on the inside, so I sprayed the color on the outside cheeks, going really slow so the paint doesn't land in the middle. Putting this edited visor in a position, it does do a little something. It makes the visor much easier to see and still lets the face be seen. I like it, so I did it to all three. Then for the glue, super glue has a bad habit of blooming as it dries, so to make sure nothing mars the clear domes, I use tacky glue to glue these visors down permanently. I'm really liking these faces. It'll be something unique from the Terran. Next to the white armor, they really pop. The faces under the visors are fun. You have to get pretty close to really appreciate those faces, but they're under there. That is a really funky effect. These guys are full of funky effects, and speaking of those effects, the Motherload paint, it doesn't do a heck of a lot over the white paint. There's a little extra shine where the light hits it just right, but over a color, I feel like it really kind of pops off. Over that blue overspraying I did from underneath, and underneath, on the model that was zenithaled, it does react a little bit stronger and a little bit better over this than the just white prime guys. You can especially see it on the legs and in the tummy. There's just a lot more contrast and it accentuates the shapes of the armor a lot more than the ones where it's over just a white prime. Another thing that the white armor has really exposed for me is I can't tell the difference between the dark umber panel liner and the black panel liner. I can't see any brown from this color on the models. The only thing I can see is that this color stains and is a little bit bigger and it sticks around better in the recesses. And so I think I can finally give Nick back his black panel liner because I'm gonna be using this dark umber from now on. I love how these models are turning out. I'm learning so much and I get to do a little bit more learning, trying some more colors on the little healing beams. These are also molded in clear green. I bought this color, Malum Malice, to try out on these beams. Also, it has been 24 hours since I gave these paints a stir and a shake, and the pigments still look mixed. It seems like that stirring really did the trick. For one of these beams, I'm doing a Zenithal Prime. This seems to have always led to the best results with Turbo Dork paint, and one of these I'm gonna spray right onto the bare plastic to see what it does. I also had a thought that the green Turbo Dork color would look good over some green paint, so I put some Ghillie-Doo speed paint over the white Zenithal. To see what it would look like just over a black and white Zenithal, I also sprayed up some sprue. Then I gave all three of these things 2 coats of Malum Malice. Looking at all three results together, they're all interesting. Over the green, the paint looks greener, over the white Zenithal, it looks more yellow, and over the transparent plastic, it still has a little bit of that transparency. I went ahead and painted all the canisters to match the armor and glued these on in a position so I could really see them in place. It's a cool effect. Once again, I'm not sure which version I like more. Over the Zenithal, I feel like it shows off a lot more of the color shiftiness of this paint, but over the green, over the bare plastic, I do feel like you get a little bit of that transparentness showing through, and it does look pretty good. I don't know. In my experimenting on the medic squad, I've kind of just painted up the medic squad, which is fine because I'm sure I'm gonna have at least one more of these units in my army. These guys seem really good, although figuring out exactly how to use this unit is probably gonna be the thing that unlocks the Terran faction. In an alternating activation game, the most important thing you can do with your activation is move, shoot, or fight. And the medics don't really do any of that. And so it's really tricky to set up your activations so that you can go through an entire enemy activation without getting to do one of those things. If I pop my stim packs and my guys are injured, they're gonna have to withstand at least one activation from my opponent before I get to activate my medics and then try to heal them up. And then once my medics have activated, that's a little bit of a dead activation where I didn't do a whole lot and then my opponent gets another activation. It's It's really, really tricky, but at least my medic models are gonna look really spicy doing it. I am very happy with how my medics turned out, and I am very happy with the color scheme of my Terran Marines, although I think I'm gonna paint strip the guys that I practiced on and then paint them again just so that everything is perfect. I kinda just slapped the red on to see if it would look good, and the paint's on there pretty thick, so when I actually go to paint my guys for realsies, I want them perfect. While I was waiting for some things to dry on my medics, I actually went ahead and sprayed up the rest of the squad of Terran Marines with the silver fox color, and it is extremely chromy. I want to use these metallic paints on the entire army because every time I paint up a new army, I want to get a little bit of a different experience. My Black Templars are painted very, very well. My Dark Eldar are pink. My Necrons use a lot of washes, and this is going to be the army of the metallics. I also just think it'll look really good on the tabletop. That true metallic metal glisten is something special. Now I have even more experience under my belt, painting up some Starcraft miniatures, and I am really digging them. I feel like a 1,000-point army, which is about half a standard game, is coming together pretty darn quick, and I am excited for more. And I'm excited for more opportunities to give some of these weird, wacky Turbo Dork colors a try. I would say they were very effective on these guys, and I can't wait for another project where I can really utilize these. I think all the units that have been released for this game so far is going to keep me busy for a while, but I'm excited to see more units from StarCraft get turned into miniature form. I don't know if a lot of people are clamoring for it, but I really want to see the humble SCV, the worker units. I am ready to be in rear with the gear. Thanks for watching. And don't forget about Exter, linked below.